Alright, welcome to your first YouTube workshop, the first of many. This one happens to be on something that is called synthesis thinking. Synthesis, if you look at the beginning of the word, starts with synth and S-I-N-T-H, which you might recognize from words like synthesizer and synthesize and synthetic. Basically, synthesis is to make. Very simply, it's to make something. And what you're going to be making here is actually a combination of, we are working to create workshop presentations, and you have got 4 documents. They're different. Some of them are primary sources, some of them are secondary sources, and we'll talk more about that later. But your job as a group and as an individual, you're building a skill where what you do, here's your happy little face here, and here's your giant brain, is that all of these documents are understood and processed by your brain, something that looks like this, and then what comes out the other side of your brain, usually through your mouth and through your writing and through your discussion, is basically a new understanding. And it's a tremendously important skill. You actually do it all the time. So for example, I'm going to draw another little cartoon here, and let's say here you are, and you meet somebody for the first time, and when you meet them for the first time, you're going to take in their appearance. Let's say you notice they have a certain kind of shoes, and they're wearing a certain kind of t-shirt. Maybe it's a Minecraft shirt, maybe it's a shirt that you identify, maybe it's a Beneath the Veil or whatever I don't know what that band's called, but maybe it's one of those kind of shirts. But basically, you combine a couple different aspects, the person's shoes, their haircut, their shirt, and then maybe whether or not they smile at you for the first time you see them, and you develop in your mind, which is basically some kind of a position on that person. And because almost everybody here is cool, maybe your position is that they are cool. Well, you've combined several different factors to come up with a new idea. They are cool. This is the same process that you go through with these historical documents, except for you're not doing it visually. Well, you're doing it with language, which is more difficult. So I'm going to pull up the Sam Adams documents, and I've got 4 of them here. And the first thing that I did in each document, and this is so for historical synthesis, which is what we're working on right now, we'll call this a historical synthesis. Your first priority is to, because these documents are long, what matters? What matters in the documents? What is the most important thing? And what I like to do is I highlight the things that are important. And you can share these documents, of course, and underline things, and I've seen, so someone thought this was important. It's actually not what I highlighted from this document, which in this case I'm just going to call it document A. And in document A, what I found that was important is this founding father. Because again, in these presentations, the purpose of your presentation is not to develop a 300-page book on the person. Hopefully, after viewing your presentation, so now I'm going to put a little thing over here about, this is your workshop or your presentation workshop. What we hope is that whoever goes to your workshop for 2 or 3 or 5 minutes can take away the most important things about the person and the topic. That is what you're hoping will happen. So when I look at this document A, the thing I have to see here is American founding father Samuel Adams helped organize the Boston Tea Party and sign the U.S. Declaration of Independence. Well, if someone can walk away from my workshop and if someone says, hey, who is Samuel Adams? Oh, he founding fathers, revolutionary time period, Boston Tea Party, U.S. Declaration of Independence. Well, that's great, okay? So that's really all I'm going to take out of this document. I did like this word, resistance. right? Because the revolution was a resistance to British authority. So we've got document A right here. And then I would encourage you to do this as a group, because when you're doing this as a group, then you're having true synthesis. So I would make I'm going to make a little T-chart here. It's not going to be too pretty, but it is going to be a T-chart. And, you know, it's going to be like, what matters? What matters from document A? Founding Father, Boston Tea Party. And I've read through these documents and I have an idea of where I want to go with this. So that idea that it was in Boston is really important too. Okay? And then maybe over here we have our complete synthesis. Okay? Now, document B. Okay. Document B, so when you're reading these, you have to, you know, along with what matters is like, what is it? What am I reading? What is this? All right? And if you looked at this document and you did not take away that this is an eloquent address, which is another word for a speech, then you're missing it. This is also a primary source, which we'll work on more later. But in this speech, these are the actual words he delivered. We are now on this continent to the astonishment of the world 3 millions of souls united in one cause. We have large armies, well disciplined and appointed, with commanders inferior to none in military skill. What is he doing? He is inspiring. And you'll have to read the whole thing, but he is really stirring the pot. He is really getting people excited about this idea of a revolution. So that's my one takeaway, and there's a lot of details in here that are really awesome, and the way that he writes is brilliant, but my one takeaway from what I'm going to call document B is that he was inspirational. He was inspirational. He was what we call a rabble rouser. He was the kind of guy who, you know, if the administration of this school came out with a new rule, he would get everybody all up in arms to try to change the rule and try to change everything. And he would use really beautiful language. He would get people really excited about what he's talking about. Now this act right here, it doesn't say at the beginning what it's from, but if I look to the back, it's something that was written by a historian in 1999. It's from a book called 1774, The Party is Over. And what's in this document is, in London during the experience, Parliament enacted 4 punitive laws. These are punishing laws in response to the Boston Tea Party. Okay? So this is the other side of the conflict. This is what Britain did after the Boston Tea Party. Okay, so again, I'm talking, this is a new document. It's Boston Tea Party. And this is the British response. And what's in here, when I read through it, the most important stuff, I think, was at the very end, and I highlighted it. It said something like, now at last His Majesty's government could unleash its full power to expose the Boston rioters as the isolated band of malcontents that they were. This is what the British Crown thought was going to happen, that they would really punish Boston. This is all about punishing Boston. And they thought that the rest of the country would really turn their backs on Boston, but they didn't. Okay? And so this is about really the United States becoming a nation who, when one state is attacked or punished, everybody responds. And they respond very strongly. And the last document is a longer biography that's got all kinds of information. Not all of it's important, but this is the one thing I picked out from it as the most important thing. Regarded by his contemporaries as the father of the American Revolution. Okay? Not a father, not one of the fathers, but the father. And so this one says that he was actually like the most important revolutionary. The most important. Okay? So if you combine all of these together, you get an idea of Sam Adams as like, you know, very important, crucial, inspirational. So who is inspirational and important and changes things? This is a leader. I mean, he was a true American leader. Maybe the first American leader. Okay? So when you work in your groups, your goal is to come together with these documents, find out what is important, find out where the documents are from, and then what matters from each document, the most important thing that matters, and then put them all together. The other thing that would go in my synthesis is this thing about it wasn't just about Boston anymore. This is the big thing that Sam Adams did. It's not just about Boston. Not just Boston. And that is what I would want someone to take away from my workshop. So I'm going to design my workshop to say, okay, while you're here, I want you to get an idea of the Boston Tea Party, what it was and what it was for, why it happened, who was the leader, and how Sam Adams, as that leader, was able to turn something that just happened in one city into something that really changed the shape of the nation, and then read this speech again. This is Sam Adams. This is by far the coolest thing, because these are his actual words, and they're tough, but figuring them out, it will be well worth your time when it comes to understanding the actual history and the really interesting stuff in U.S. history.